Hello everyone, my name's Dave Castiglione and I am the founder of Sharky Video. Sharky Video is actually my production company, and that is the label that I use to produce all of our shot on video movies, which were primarily in the 1990s. But back in 1972, I was only 5 years old, and my father took me to see my first PG rated movie. That's really how it all began for me. That movie was The Poseidon Adventure. And let me tell you, I was totally blown away. I had never seen anything like that before, and I was overwhelmed when I came out of the theater by all the special effects, performances, cinematography, everything. And most of it was all real. It was all fire and water and full-scale sets that they used long before digital technology ever came into play. So after that, I was obsessed and I wanted to make movies. But what could I do? I was 5 years old. So, just like any kid, I started drawing pictures. I used Crayola crayons to draw crude-like storyboard recreations of scenes from movies. And it wasn't until about a few years later that I was in my attic of my childhood home one day, and I discovered a box of old home movie reels that belonged to my parents. They were 50-foot reels, regular 8 film, along with their wind-up movie camera from the 50s and a projector. So I was fascinated. I began to experiment, and really took off from there. And it wasn't until about when I was 13 that my parents bought me my first Super 8 sound movie camera. And I would make home movies starring my dad, just saying all kinds of funny things and being goofy. And my dad was like the family comedian, but he was funny even when he wasn't trying to be. So it was always a lot of fun having him for my subject. But when I was 15 years old, I actually made my first Super 8 sound movie. And that movie was called The House. It was a supernatural thriller, murder mystery. And I had friends from my neighborhood star in the movie and help me make it. And we got on the front page of the local newspaper, and they gave us a nice spread, and we instantly became popular in school. So that's how I got started, and that was my first Super 8 movie, The House. Now, my first shot on video production was actually a movie called Mary Bob, which I made back in 1993. It's what led to the creation of Sharky Video. Mary Bob starred my late father as a man who was abducted by aliens and sent back to Earth, transformed into his wife. So we had my dad dressed up in my mom's nightgown and bedroom slippers, wearing her wig and jewelry. So it was pretty crazy. And my dad, like I said, was always the comedian. And so Mary Bob was kind of a test project for me. It was about 10 minutes long. And if you're interested in seeing a clip from Mary Bob, we have it on the Sharky Video YouTube channel. With my dad doing his little jingle at the end of the movie. So if you want a good laugh, please check it out. Now, I started doing movies in 1990 for Wave as an actor, and I did a lot of movies after that and throughout the 90s, as well as produce Sharky Video titles, such as Love is a Stranger, which was our first feature that we shot in 1994. And then we went on to produce An Ex-Hooker's Christmas Carol and Backwoods Marcy And finally, The Deep Undead, which I'm currently trying to get released. So I'm anxious for an audience to finally see that. But luckily, Ross Snyder and Saturn's Core Audio and Video have been re-releasing some of Sharky Video's old titles. So most recently, I was in a cameo role for Richard Mogg's Easter Bunny Bloodbath 2. So that was a lot of fun. Also, I'm currently writing my first novel about my experiences growing up in the 70s as a child making movies on Super 8. So it's a slow process, but a lot of history there. So I'm excited about that. And I do want to take this time to thank Tony Newton for having me here. And thank you, Tony, for all your support of the independent filmmakers out there. And I also want to talk a little bit about Deep Undead, which is currently in the hands of a distributor. So I'm going to switch over to Laura Giglio, who did a podcast about her role in the movie.
So I play the part of Emily. Emily is a flapper from the 1920s in The Deep Undead. I appear in the flashback scenes, and Emily is a very interesting character. My character actually had supposedly gone down with the ship, the SS Catfish, in the 1920s. But there's some secrets about Emily that I can't really talk about without giving things away. But basically, she is a link to the past and the present. And you'll just have to watch the movie to find out how. Deep Undead is really different from most movies that I've worked on, mainly because this movie has a really involved story, I think. A really intricate storyline and plot. And it's feature length. And there's just a lot going on in this movie. And it really delves deep into some really interesting storylines. And it's definitely different than most movies I've worked on in the past. I think that the fear of the unknown, what could be out there, really had an impact on the origin of this story. There's just so much that we don't know, might or might not exist. And this movie, I think, really makes you think about that, about things like who really could be walking among us. Do we really know who these people are? Could they be something else? And when you see the movie, you will see what I mean. So again, this is Laura Giglio talking about my experience working on The Deep Undead. And I had a great time. And I love this movie. And I hope you will too. And I hope you'll enjoy my part in it. I had a blast working on it. And thank you. Thank you for listening, everybody. Bye.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you again, Tony, and everyone watching. Hopefully, we'll meet one day at a convention, horror film expo. So until then, signing off.